There is no chance that this investment will stop as long as I am here. And in the meantime, I am absolutely open, as I have been on other occasions, to discussing it with anyone who has concerns.
Amid a faltering ceasefire in the Iran conflict, public attention has sharply turned to a sprawling $1.6 billion development plan linked to members of the Trump family, sparking debate over priorities and the optics of private business dealings during a period of international crisis. Thousands of protesters have taken to the streets to oppose a proposed luxury resort backed by Jared Kushner, rallying against what they view as an outsized foreign investment that threatens local communities and municipal autonomy. Environmentalists and local residents warn that Albania's pristine virgin coastline could be irreversibly damaged by the mega-development, arguing that the project's scale and infrastructure demands would imperil fragile ecosystems, marine habitats, and traditional livelihoods. The resort deal has provoked a political mutiny inside a NATO member state, with fierce public opposition and vocal critics accusing the government of privileging elite foreign investors, like the president's son-in-law, over the needs and consent of ordinary Albanians. A Jared Kushner-backed luxury resort is facing intense backlash from conservation groups, which argue the development would irreparably harm sensitive coastal ecosystems and mobilize sustained campaigns to block planning approvals and international financing. For the third consecutive day, thousands of protesters filled the streets of Tirana, turning daily demonstrations into a persistent show of public anger that has complicated government messaging and drawn widespread media attention to the dispute. Public fury is mounting over a $1.6 billion luxury resort linked to Jared Kushner, with critics saying the scale and opacity of the deal symbolize elite privilege and threaten local communities, heritage sites, and public access to the shoreline. The project is being promoted and financed through Kushner's investment vehicle, Affinity Partners, a firm whose involvement has become a focal point for criticism about foreign capital, governance, and the influence of politically connected investors. The protests intensified after opponents rejected an offer from Albania's prime minister to discuss solutions, a rebuff that underlined deep mistrust between protesters and authorities and signaled that simple negotiations may not be enough to defuse the crisis. Prime Minister Edi Rama has defended the Kushner-backed project, insisting it will deliver jobs, infrastructure, and foreign investment that could boost the national economy, a line meant to reassure voters and investors amid mounting unrest. Protesters accuse Albanian authorities of pushing the development forward without meaningful public consultation, claiming decisions were made behind closed doors and that local voices and environmental assessments were sidelined in favor of rapid approval. The executive director of Conservation Group Protection and Preservation of the Natural Environment in Albania said, and I quote, "From start to finish there has been a total lack of transparency. We have seen no public consultation or public documentation regarding permits, and so now what we are saying is, if they remove the bulldozers, remove the fence and restore the habitats to what they were, then we can start talking." Unquote. Some protesters carried inflatable flamingos as a theatrical gesture to draw attention to the potential environmental damage they fear the development could cause, using the bright symbols to dramatize the threat to local wildlife and coastal aesthetics. Conservation groups contend that construction work has already begun inside a legally protected coastal area, a charge reported by The Guardian that has intensified scrutiny of permits, enforcement, and the project's environmental review process. The planned development is centered on Sazan Island, Albania's only island in the Adriatic Sea, a location whose strategic position and scenic value have made the proposal especially controversial among locals and international observers. The broader development footprint also encompasses adjacent wetlands and coastal habitats within a designated marine park, areas that conservationists say are vital for migratory species, nursery grounds, and ecosystem resilience. Environmental campaigners warn that the region contains unique biodiversity and irreplaceable cultural heritage, arguing that large-scale construction risks destroying habitats, archaeological sites, and the traditional livelihoods that depend on them. As public mutiny against the deal linked to the U.S. president's son-in-law grows inside a NATO member state, the controversy has coincided with a new diplomatic and strategic blow to the Trump administration over developments in the Iran conflict, complicating an already fraught political landscape. At least one person has been killed in the devastating aftermath of Iran's deadly strikes on Kuwait. Kuwaiti authorities also alleged that multiple people sustained injuries following Iran's drone attacks. With the international airport suffering significant damage, Kuwait has suspended all commercial flight operations. Airport operations in Kuwait are reportedly expected to remain halted until further notice from authorities. The airport had only reopened for normal operations on June 1st before the strikes took place. Kuwait's Ministry of Defense confirmed that Iran launched multiple hostile drones during its June 3rd attack. According to Kuwait's Ministry of Defense, Iran fired 13 ballistic missiles and 17 drones during the assault. Gulf allies have now come out strongly against Iran following attacks on Bahrain and Kuwait. The Gulf Cooperation Council released a statement on June 3 condemning what it called ongoing aggression. The GCC reportedly accused Iran of carrying out cowardly attacks against civilians in Bahrain and Kuwait. GCC Secretary-General Jassim Mohammed al-Budaiwi also accused Iran of hostile actions against Gulf nations. The statement further alleged that Iran's attacks amounted to violations of international law and accepted norms. Al-Budaiwi also urged the international community to take a firm stand and end Iran's aggression. The Gulf Council Secretary-General said, and I quote, "The attacks reflect the Iranian regime's insistence on pursuing rejected hostile policies targeting the security, stability, and sovereignty of the member states. Iran is in violation of international law, the United Nations Charter, and all international norms, stressing that this requires a firm international stance to put an end to these dangerous Iranian aggressive practices. We underscored that the security of the Kingdom of Bahrain and the State of Kuwait is an integral part of the security of the GCC states, and that the Cooperation Council states stand united in confronting these attacks and fully support all measures and procedures taken by the two countries to defend their security, sovereignty, and territorial integrity." End quote. On June 3rd, the United States and Iran exchanged missile strikes across the region despite a fragile ceasefire. American bases in Kuwait and Bahrain came under fire following U.S. self-defense strikes against Iran. Press TV's report said, and I quote, "Iran's IRGC announced that it struck a U.S. military airbase and the U.S. Fifth Fleet's headquarters with missiles and drones in retaliation for American attacks." The IRGC said a U.S. warplane first hit an Iranian tanker near the Strait of Hormuz late last night, causing engine room damage. In response, the IRGC targeted a U.S.-affiliated vessel named Panaya with naval missiles. After a subsequent U.S. strike on an IRGC telecom tower on Keshem Island, the IRGC Aerospace Force attacked a U.S. air and helicopter base in a regional country as well as the Fifth Fleet's command center. The IRGC warned that any violation of security in the Strait of Hormuz would bring a harsh price for the U.S. military, unquote. Iran has reportedly stopped communicating with mediators regarding a possible extension of the ceasefire. However, U.S. President Donald Trump rejected those claims and insisted that talks with Iran remain ongoing.